Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, to those in person, and also for those who are watching us live streaming, and also those attending at our Avalon School in Catalina Island. We have an alternative in-person location at the Avalon School where residents on Catalina Island can participate in our meeting from the auditorium at the Avalon School. So a special welcome to those attending from Catalina, and bear with us in the event there are any technical issues. I will now ask the board secretary to take a roll and establish a quorum for the record.
Thank you. President Craighead?
Here.
Member Benitez?
Here.
Member Lopez?
Present.
Member Miller?
Here.
Member Otto?
Here.
And Student Member Arroyo?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I will now ask our student representative from Milliken, Chukwuma. I'll pronounce his last name when I introduce you later in the agenda. That's as far as I'm getting right now. But I'll have you come forward and lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you present in the room and at Avalon, the board appreciates and supports community input at our meetings. During the meeting, there will be time for the public to comment on matters on the agenda and matters not on the agenda. But before we get to the business of this meeting, I'd like to acknowledge the devastation and trauma experienced by our neighbors to the north. In too many cases, people have lost not just their homes, in some cases their loved ones, but also their lifestyles have been tragically altered. Schools have burnt down, places of worship, neighborhood businesses. But I'd like to thank our staff. Thank our staff for being in contact with our school communities and our families as it pertains to the air quality. We had notices that went out on a daily basis letting everybody know that we'd be either on a rainy day schedule or advising everybody to stay inside because of the air quality. So thank you for that. But our hearts go out to those who have lost so much. I just wanted to take a moment, because I know it's on my mind, it's on mind. I mean, we're all affected. It's not just our neighbors. We're all affected by that. But getting back to the agenda, we have a report from our closed session. So the board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's agenda. The board took action on the following items. On item 3.1, the board voted 3-0 with board members Miller and Lopez absent to expel student ID number 201143808 in compliance with Education Code sections 48900 and 48915C2, and to suspend the enforcement of the expulsion under pursuant to Education Code section 48917 and provide an opportunity for the student to attend another school within the district. The student will not be eligible to apply for readmission until after June 12th, 2025. On item 3.2, the board voted 3-0 with board members Miller and Lopez absent to approve a public employee employment. I will turn it over to Dr. Ahn, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, to provide specifics.
Thank you, President Craighead.
So I'm bringing to you today two acting administrator positions. The first being Carmen Hernandez, Administrative Assistant at Equity Engagement and Partnerships, to acting principal at Longfellow Elementary School. And Brandon Kent, Program Facilitator at Hudson, to acting assistant principal at Muir.
Thank you. Right. So on item 3.3, the board voted 4-0 with board member Miller absent to approve resolution number 011525-A regarding the termination of certificated employee number 00289-711. On item 3.4, the board voted 4-0 with board member Miller absent to approve a final settlement agreement and general release for the OAH case number 20241-00690 listed on the agenda. The board took no other reportable action. So now we will adopt the agenda. We need a motion for that.
Move approval. Second.
Is there any discussion on the agenda? I will ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Member Lopez,
Aye.
Member Otto,
Aye.
President Craighead,
Aye.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Benitez,
Aye.
and Student Member Arroyo preferential vote.
Aye.
That passes 5-0.
Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce from Milliken, our student representative, Chukwuma Uchebulam. And I hope I got that right. I was counseled earlier, took some practice, but we are looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, LBUSD board members, the senior team, and the entire Long Beach community. It is truly an honor to be here today to represent my very own school, Robert A. Milliken. My name is Chukwuma Uchebulam, and I'm a senior in the Quest pathway at Milliken. Across my 4 years at Milliken, I've acquired many leadership roles, the most recent being ASB President, Black Student Union Co-President, and Quest Ambassador Co-President. Since the last meeting report a year ago, Milliken High School has accomplished a lot during the 2023 spring semester and so much more at the start of the 2024 to 2025 school year. We've entered the new school year with a lot of fun club activities, an incredibly successful homecoming, thriving sports teams, new and upcoming cultural events, plenty of future college and career assistance for seniors, and even changes to our own school. To start off, I would like to say since my freshman year, Milliken has provided a plethora of clubs that have served many diverse interests of all grade levels on campus and even for teachers who sponsor said clubs. Each and every club on campus provides a wide and unique range of options for people to get involved with Milliken. Through a 2-day Club Rush event, we are given a preview into what Milliken has to truly offer. Milliken is currently undergoing a significant improvements as part of an ongoing modernization efforts. The first phase of construction includes upgrades to the 100 main office and library and also the 200 buildings, which are currently under construction. These updates include new LED lights, AC heat systems, audio and visual enhancements, and elevators for buildings with upstairs access. Additionally, structural upgrades are being made to improve safety and functionality. For our cultural highlights, our cultural initiatives have expanded and flourished this year. The Ballet Folklorico Club has now been turned into a class, allowing more students to participate and learn about the vibrant cultural art form. Over the past year, the class has performed 4 times as a special cultural rally events, showcasing their talent and celebrating cultural heritage. A brand new club, the Viet Club, was created last year, and I'm excited to share that once again, they'll be celebrating Lunar New Year on the Milliken's campus. Our 562 night market continues to thrive. Now it's in 4th year, featuring over 25 local Asian American Pacific Islander vendors. Additionally, the Black Student Union hosted a Black Artisan Market last year, once again continuing it this year. Further contributing to our school's cultural diversity, I'm also proud to announce that we'll once again be holding it under the title Night of Joy. This year, during our Unity Week, alongside our dress-up days, we'll have a cultural all-day assembly in the stadium, followed by our cultural fair during lunch the next day. The groundbreaking event will help bring the entire campus together to help celebrate and learn from one another's diverse backgrounds. For our sports highlights, from the end of spring 2024 semester to start off our fall semester, Milliken's sports team has achieved remarkable success. Last spring, the girls softball and boys baseball teams achieved remarkable success. Last spring, the girls softball and boys baseball team both went undefeated this last season, marking an impressive achievement for the athletic program. This year, the girls golf team defeated Wilson, also went undefeated in Moore League for the first time in 15 years, demonstrating their hard work and dedication. Additionally, the girls flag football team reached the CIF playoffs and celebrated their first playoff win. Most notably, the school year, our football team achieved a historic milestone by beating Poly for the first time in 16 years and completing an undefeated season for the first time in 51 years. During the football season, the team were not only the only group chasing a win. Milliken's very own ASB was also named CIF Southern Student Section District of the Year for the football season, a testament to our incredible school spirit and support for our team. Supporting students' future remain a top priority here at Milliken. Our College and Career Center provides an invaluable resource, including application assistance, job interview prep, and career guidance. Events like our College Career Fair and Swarm program have instrumental for seniors navigating post-high school plans. Swarm in particular allows students to dedicate class time to college applications, a well-received initiative that we hope to continue annually. As my time at Milliken winds down, I'm filled with gratitude for the experiences and the memories I've gained. I've been incredibly happy and just incredibly wonderfully filled with joy on this amazing and incredible journey. I'm proud to have been a part of such a vibrant community. Thank you for your time and support. If you have any questions about Milliken, I'd be happy to answer them. Go Rams.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I don't think we're done with you yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We probably have questions for you.
Oh, you're so right. My bad.
And I'm going to start out. So you are a senior.
Yes,
And it is January, so that means that you probably have some plans for next year.
I do indeed. I plan on going to a four-year university next year. Still waiting on for apps to come out. I applied to UC Berkeley, which is my top choice, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, San Diego, and also applied to Cal State Long Beach, Cal State San Diego, and also Cal Poly SLO.
Very nice, very nice. I know at least one of my colleagues is very excited about your UCLA choice. Okay, well, it's wonderful to hear about everything going on at Milliken. Do we have any other? Oh, yep, Mr. Miller.
Two questions for you, sir.
Yes.
First off, what do you plan to study?
I plan on studying at Berkeley. I plan on studying legal studies and just in general political science.
Okay. And then more on a personal tip. So you were telling us about all of the leadership roles that you've taken while at Milliken.
Yes.
Can you remember the first leadership role that you had and how old you were? Just curious.
The first, like, just in general?
Yep.
Okay. I probably the first leadership role I've officially had was just teaching at my Sunday school. I started doing that when I was 13. Still doing that right now. So that's probably the first leadership role I had.
Yeah, I asked because me and Dr. Benitez have had many of conversations about if leaders are made or if you were always a leader. And so it's always kind of a controversial question.
Yeah.
Because you want to give people an opportunity to be in leadership roles so that they can flourish into the leader that they have always wanted to become. But then you also have people that have known that they were going to be in leadership as long as they've been able to walk and talk. And so it's great to hear that not only our campus has given you many opportunities to do so, but it sounds like you're flourishing. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Otto, did you have a question or
No.
comment? Oh, okay. Okay, I think, what, Dr. Benitez? You're approaching your microphone. You're good? You know what? Thank you so much for being here. Oh, I know. Is there somebody here that you'd like to acknowledge, somebody who's here to support
Oh,
you?
my mom and my principal, Dr. Alexander. I'd love to acknowledge them very much so. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Alexander just for providing this opportunity, and also my mom for driving me here. Thank you, Mom. Love you. Yeah, and then Grant Robinson, who's not here right now, but I just want to acknowledge him too as well. He's my ASB director, and he's just done so much for me these past 4 years.
Okay, well, in that case, I think it's time to take a little break. We can do a picture, so we're going to ask you to come up here with us, and we'll do We'll direct your attention to the screen.
So today is our strategic plan quarterly monitoring meeting, an opportunity for us to pause, really listen to the community voice that helps to inform our strategic plan, for us to actually have two-way communication with members of our community and our students to assure that we're not having gaps in what we understand from the community as we think about the work of our strategic plan.
It speaks to us being able to come together to be really intentional when talking about strategic vision. What do we want to see in the future for both students, staff, and the community at large?
If we want our students to feel successful upon leaving and feel that they can make a change, we want to give them opportunities to do that while they're here and give them practice. And so anytime a student feels that they're seen, that's going to increase their sense of belonging, which we know is really important, and improve their ability to do well in their classrooms. So we really want to give students an opportunity to have that practice in class as well as in extracurricular spaces, because those two come together and just really promote achievement for our students.
I'm a student at a high school in Long Beach, and I feel that because we are gathered here with the adults in the room, that we are here to speak our voices, to be able to shape our own destinies and the destinies of future generations, in order so that everyone is uplifted and everyone is included in these important conversations.
So today's quarterly meeting is a step for reflection and an opportunity to do with our community, which is actually something that we built the skill to do during the visioning process. It wasn't the purpose of visioning, but we built some new ways of being. And so today is going deeper in some of our core values and some of the elements of the adult portrait and the system portrait, so that we are en route to achieving what we want for our graduates to be in the future.
So for us, it's critically important that it's not just a one-time conversation, that we continue engaging around what are our student priorities, what are our priorities for our strategic plan, and how do we fully fulfill and uphold the vision that we have, that our communities have around student success. So this is an opportunity to do exactly that.
It's always good to see our vision in action. So next, we are at public testimony on items listed on the agenda.
We don't have any for that.
Okay, we don't have any. How about public testimony on items not listed on the agenda?
Yes, for that we do.
Okay.
I'll call Jeremy up to the podium, please.
Do I go? Okay. President Craighead, members of the board, Dr. Baker, and guests, my name is Jeremy Dodgen. I'm a parent at Renaissance High School for the Arts and Vice President of Parents for the Arts, the parent-teacher booster organization at Renaissance. I'm here to talk about our partnership with Long Beach Walls. Long Beach Walls is part of Worldwide Walls, a global organization that brings art and culture to public spaces around the world. For over 10 years, Long Beach Walls has brought international and local artists to Long Beach, contributing over 120 murals to the community. When speaking of murals in Long Beach, Mayor Rex Richardson recently said, "Arts and culture are the heartbeat of Long Beach. By supporting and investing in the arts, we not only beautify our city, but foster a shared sense of connection and creative expression." If you were at the State of the City last night, you know that Mayor Richardson is prioritizing visual and performing arts in Long Beach, with students being central to the effort. In 2023, Renaissance partnered with Long Beach Walls to bring 4 murals to our campus. Mayor Richardson was there to kick off the week and spray the first bit of paint onto a Renaissance wall. The partnership brought world-class art and artists to our school, connected us with the broader art community, beautified the campus, and created a source of campus and community pride. It also helped connect us with the other community organizations like Arts Council for Long Beach, Downtown Long Beach Alliance, and Studio 111. Possibly the most amazing thing about the partnership is that it is completely free to the school and the district, including the tens of thousands of dollars worth of art that now adorn Renaissance walls and inspire our students. We were very excited when at the June 5th board meeting this year, you approved growing this partnership to 3 murals at Renaissance and 9 at Lowell and Rogers. I was shocked to learn a few weeks later that LBUSD had pulled out of the contract on the eve of the kickoff event. I was dismayed that there was no engagement with the community on possible ways to mitigate any concerns or even any communication about why the decision was made. LBUSD's Vision 2035 calls for authentic community engagement and collaboration. One of the key themes of Superintendent Baker's strategic plan is partnering with the community to create a system-wide culture of authentic community engagement to strengthen relationships and community trust. That trust was broken this summer with a key community partner, one celebrated by Mayor Richardson and other civic and community leaders. While at Renaissance, we are working to rebuild that trust with Long Beach Walls and hope to resume our participation in the annual festival next summer. We are counting on the district to hold to your stated objectives, work with this vital community partner, and approve murals at Renaissance again. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other speakers?
No, just that one.
That was it. Okay, thank you. Okay. In which case, we will go to reports on superintendent advisory groups, and I'll just mention that these are the board members' reports on our superintendent advisory groups so that the public understands the superintendent has created 4 groups, including 1 or 2 board members for each group that meets with staff once before each of our board meetings so that we as board members can discuss together and advise Dr. Baker of any relevant discussions that arise during these group meetings. And we will start with business, budget, and policy development. Dr. Benitez.
Thanks, President Craighead. So our board will have 4 new policies to review and consider at our next board meeting. I'll quickly read off just to give us a heads up on what's coming down the pipeline. We'll have an independent study policy that required some technical changes for our consideration. And we'll also have different iterations of a non-discrimination policy, all updates in adherence with our state definitions and revisions. So one will be a general non-discrimination policy, the other as it pertains to employment, and then the last as it pertains to harassment, student-related harassment. That's my report.
Thank you. Next, we have instruction and student learning supports. Ms. Lopez.
No report tonight.
Thank you. We have workforce development. Mr. Miller.
Yes, I only have one thing to report out today, and it's centered around our teacher and administrator recruitment fair. So our annual teacher and administrator recruitment fair will be held on Wednesday, February 12th at Browning High School at 5 p.m. And we'll focus on the recruitment for our high need areas like special education, dual immersion, career technical education, or CTE. So come out on February 12th. The event will be, like I said, it starts at 5 p.m. and it will conclude at about 6:30. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. And next we have student outcome focused governance. Mr. Otto.
Yeah. Working hard as a district with the Council of Great City Schools and the Student Outcomes Focused Governance. We have some events coming up in the near future, and we'll have future reports on those at our next meeting.
Can I just add one more thing,
Sure.
Mr. Otto? I do want to highlight that as part of our student outcomes focused governance work that we've been engaged in as a board now for some time, that we'll also have key individuals from our team, from our executive team, also going through trainings. So part of our conversation was, alignment, not only within our district, but also to have some conversations about what other districts are doing in terms of data presentations, monitoring calendars. So I think it's part of what we committed to doing, building capacity as a district. So I just want to acknowledge that we'll have key members of our team, including Mr. Moskovitz, Dr. Madrigal, and others that will go through trainings through the Council of Great City Schools as well.
Good, thank you.
In addition, your board president will be going through a training at the end of January that is around the student outcome focused governance model. I don't know if you want to say anything in addition to that, President Craighead.
Yes, I will be traveling to lovely Fresno and spending a few days there working on our student outcome focused governance.
And since we're on the subject, I looked at Mr. Moskovitz and remembered a couple more things we talked about. So Mr. Moskovitz or Dr. Madrigal will also be hosting drop-in office hours for any of our board members to drop in before our next board goals presentation. I think we're presenting on goals 3 and 4 at our next meeting. So 1 and 2, sorry. So just encourage my colleagues to engage in those opportunities as well in preparation for our board presentation.
I might also add that the Council of Great City Schools, the staff who is supporting you all, have followed up on some of the things from our December 7th governance retreat. And so I know that all of you are actively working on some of the requests that were made for information, a timeline for future discussions. So enjoy shorter board meetings in January, because as we hit February with our monitoring calendar, we have a number of ways that we'll be monitoring board goals. We'll have some updates on district goals. We'll have voices from the field. And I know that you'll be including a cadence of governance and bylaws conversations at upcoming board meetings. So it's been a little bit of a break in terms of the content of meetings, but it's about to get busier as we head into the month of February.
Yes, you may remember that we did adopt a monitoring calendar, but we are going through some changes and upgrades for that monitoring calendar, because the monitoring calendar that we adopted was for 1 year, but we're working on a monitoring calendar that will be good for the life of our goals and guardrails. So we will be working on that in the coming weeks, and that's another reason why we have a little bit of a pause in following that calendar so closely. Okay, so with that, we will move on to consent calendar A. This consent calendar groups the approval of routine agenda items into one action for efficiency and to allow the board to focus our meetings more on student outcomes and other key issues of the district. So, does any board member have a comment or question on consent calendar A?
We need a motion first.
Or we should take a vote first? Let's go ahead and, I mean, we'll entertain a motion and then vote. How's that? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Does anybody have a question or comment?
Item 14.3. I know Mr. David Miranda was recently appointed Assistant Superintendent, and then there's another appointment here. If someone can just explain how is that different?
So you approved Mr. Miranda's contract previously. This is the official notification through the Personnel Commission around his probationary period that leads into his just next status.
Retro, okay.
It all goes together. It's not a separate item.
And then item 14.7, number 13, the contracts with Move Services, Project Staffers, and CW Moving and Storage Company. The contracts for $600,000, $600,000, and $300,000 for a total of $1,500,000. Are these contracts for all the 3 years, or is it per year? And then approximately how many schools are we talking about that in serving?
So these are 3 master services agreements for the entire duration of the term. The total contract value is for the entire duration of the term, not a per year basis. And this is based on projected use, kind of based on historical content also. We've used these firms in the past on previous moves for the bond efforts. And as we kind of gauge the projected use, it aligns with those dollar values. This is for basically the entirety of our bond program, right? So, and I just want to remind the board, because I've done this 1 or 2 times, we're entering the peak of our bond program. So there is quite a few projects underway over the course of the next 3, 4, 5-year stretch in particular. So we anticipate quite a few moves. With many of our individual modernization projects, there's even 2 or 3 moves within one project. So just quite a bit of moving and shaking where we need the support.
Thank you. And then one more question, item 14.8. I guess my question is, we have Dr. Baker assigned as superintendent of schools and as secretary of the Board of Education. And my question is, why isn't a member of the board, like the president or vice president, signing contracts, notices of employment, or the rationale for having superintendent and secretary of the Board of Education?
Jeff, do you want to answer that question?
So your question is, why is the superintendent signing employment contracts?
No, so one of the items that we're approving, 14.8, has under contracts,
so the item,
signature documents, signature contracts, agreements, notices of employment, commercial or salary payments. And a few of these, we have Dr. Baker as superintendent of schools and secretary to the Board of Education. I think it's just the rationale of having her as the secretary to the Board of Education, or is this a common practice?
It's a common practice. I think she's an ex officio secretary of the Board of Education under the statute. And so the signature certification is so that it delegates the certification, or delegates the ability to sign these particular agreements. All of those agreements then come back in front of the board for approval.
Otherwise, it would be a board member. Is that
Signing
correct?
I don't know if a board member would typically sign an agreement. I think it's typically done through staff who then bring it to the board so that the full board can then approve those signatures, approve those agreements.
Okay.
and this also just to add, the significance of tonight's certification is it's adding Margaret Lamb, who is a newly hired executive director of fiscal services, to serve in her capacity in that role and to have her ability to sign the documents that are noted.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
There is one, I believe, typo, at least on our copy, Dr. Baker, that I'm sure you're aware of. Okay.
Any further discussion on consent calendar A? I'll ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Member Lopez?
Aye.
Member Otto?
Aye.
President Craighead?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
And student member Arroyo, preferential vote.
Aye.
That passes 5-0.
Thank you. We will move to consent calendar B.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Out of an abundance of caution, I will recuse myself from consent calendar B, item 15.1, as I have a potential conflict of interest under Government Code 1090 and 87100.
Thank you. I'll ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote.
Member Lopez?
Aye.
Member Otto?
Aye.
President Craighead?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
Member Miller recuses, and student member Arroyo, preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes 4 with 1 abstention.
Thank you. Next on the agenda for new business, we have 16.1, financial and bond audit reports, 2023, 2024, information only.
Well, I'm pleased to introduce Gemma Tashinsky from Clifton Larson Allen, our auditing firm, to provide the highlights of the financial and bond audit reports for 23-24.
Thank you, Yumi. Good evening, everybody. President Craighead, members of the board, Dr. Baker, everybody in attendance. I'm here to talk about the scope of the engagement this year for the audit of the district's financial statements. This is for fiscal year ended 2024, and also for the financial and performance audit of measure K, E, and Q. Those are all combined in one report. So these are 2 different audits. And just to note, the bond audits were presented to the Citizens Oversight Committee back in December. And earlier today, we did meet with the, see if I get this right, the Board Business, Budget, and Policy Committee to go over the details of the financial and the bond report. So the audits are required naturally under Education Code, also because you receive federal funding. They're required by the Office of Management and Budget, but also they're just an important part of your fiscal responsibility, and also important to your stakeholders, all those that rely on the financial information or even that rely on your unaudited actuals, because the financial statements presented, they're very different format, but the basis for them are those unaudited actuals. So our opinion in this particular report then hopefully gives comfort to those who are relying on the information provided by the district in making their decisions or future decisions, or kind of seeing the progression and path of the district's finances. So our audit is a collaborative process. Includes discussion with many different individuals in management, as well as the committee that we met with. We always meet with one of the board members as part of the beginning process of the audit as well. We talk about our audit plan, scope, responsibility. Everybody plays a different role in the audit process. So our audit, our responsibility is to audit the information. It's management's responsibility to prepare the information and also to take responsibility for the financial statements. So even though we assist management in preparing the financial statements as presented, it's really management's responsibility. Our responsibility is to give an opinion on the financial information, to also issue our letters related to internal control and compliance over the financial process. And then, of course, as part of that, there are 2 other components of the audit. There's the federal piece, and so we're issuing a letter on opinion on compliance on the programs that we test, and then internal control, comment on whether there are any material weaknesses in internal control. And then on the state side, the state has a long laundry list of steps we have to perform for the various programs that are either mandated by Education Code or that the state, their Education Audit Appeals Panel puts out this guide every year, and so we have to follow those steps and perform those audits for those programs. So again, management's responsible for the financial statements, and at the end of the process, management does sign a representation letter that says, hey, we've communicated everything we're aware of. We believe financial statements are fairly presented. And at our part, in terms of the audit process, not just having conversations with individuals, but also looking at the data, the underlying data, the support, thinking about risk, and thinking about what kind of trends are we seeing when we do analysis. So the result of all of that is we've issued an unmodified opinion on the district's financial statements, and that is the highest opinion a CPA can render. Again, it means that an informed reader of the financials can rely on the information to make decisions, so for instance, a bondholder or the state. And so you'll see that on page 1 of the financial statements. It's the very first paragraph is where we see our opinion. Normally, we will talk about new audit or new accounting standards. This year, there were no new standards that needed to be implemented. Every year, there are different standards. Many years, there are multiple new standards that come into play. They don't always apply to every organization. So, no standards that had to be applied this year for financial statement reporting. Also, just something to mention when you look at the financials, the unaudited actuals that you received, they're in a very different format than these financial statements, and there are also additional schedules in here that are converting things from what we call modified accrual to full accrual. So you're seeing things like capital assets and long-term debt, and estimates, really big numbers for STRS and PERS liability and for OPEB. Those items are derived from actuarial valuations. So we look at them for reasonableness in terms of the assumptions. Do they make sense? Are we seeing anything unusual? So from a government-wide perspective, something that I think everybody's very familiar with these financials now, but I know beginning when GASB 34 came out, we had this really large negative unrestricted net position on that schedule, and that's because of these liabilities for STRS, for PERS, for OPEB. However, district continues to meet the requirement for the 2% reserve. That's something, of course, the state watches, the county watches. We look at it. There's a trend schedule in the report as well that comments on that. So we had no audit adjustments in the report. So that means, again, the unaudited actuals you received accepted earlier in September. Same information, just a different format here. So, good job to your team in terms of closing the books, making sure that information was accurate. We had 3 what we call past adjustments. Those are listed in the governance letter. There are always things that come up, hindsight or intentional in terms of it's not material, we're not going to post it. There are a few things in that letter related to the government-wide statement, so nothing that impacts the unaudited actuals, but definitely there's another STRS-related program that has a liability associated with OPEB that's not reported. There's a small pension program that district has that's not part of the financial numbers, and then there's some long-term subscription-based agreements that are not included. And again, this is an annual discussion of, is this significant, is it important, do we need to include it in the government-wide statements or not? And we've always come to the conclusion it's not significant enough, we can pass on it. So there were no findings related to the financial statement audit, so no issues in terms of internal control. So that's kind of the financial side of it. The next piece of it has to do with the state programs, and so on pages 88 and 89 of the report, you'll see the list of programs the state required auditors to look at this year. Not all of them apply, so you'll see a list there that says yes or no or not applicable and why. There were 3 new areas we had to test this year. Every year the state adds something new. So early college program was tested this year, Proposition 28, which I know everybody's been hearing lots about. So that was part of the audit. It will continue to be a part of the audit going forward. And then the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. Again, another big program that's been recently implemented, so now part of our state compliance guide that we look at. In terms of findings, we do have a few findings this year related to state programs. One of the things we do every year is we have to test attendance. That's the basis for funding, so it's a really important part of the audit. We tested 21 sites this year, and from all of that testing, we came up with one site that had some errors in the all-day absence code. So we do have a finding that we did bring it to the district's attention before they issued their P2 reporting, so they were able to correct it. So no impact to financial numbers in the unaudited actuals because it had been corrected prior to that reporting deadline. And really that's just when you have a schedule that's not, what do you call it, a period schedule, so like your middle schools, your high schools, there's special code they have to mark in the attendance software if a student is absent the whole day. So if you don't mark that code, it counts them as present, and then you get apportionment for it. So that's what the issue was there. Independence study, another, I think, really hot topic recently. A lot of new legislation, new rules that came out this year for 24-25 also in terms of some changes. But just some agreements that were signed. There are rules in terms of everybody has to sign it before you start claiming attendance. So not that students weren't being educated, but all the signatures weren't where they needed to be before attendance was being counted. A few items were missed from some of the agreements. So as a result, you can't count that in your attendance. So we brought that to management's attention. They're working on rectifying that. And then the final one was really small, immunization. The rules for making sure that the kiddos in different grades have all of their required immunizations. We had one student out of all the ones that we looked at that district couldn't find the records for the second required measles or varicella or whichever immunization it was. So a really small, not a big deal on that finding. And in the report, you'll see district's response for how they are going to approach correcting the issue. That also goes to the county and the state, and so the district's reporting back to those agencies as well in terms of what the plan is. And then, of course, next year, when we come back to audit, we will revisit to make sure that those things have been corrected, or do we have a recurring finding. So that's the state part of it. Final part is federal. So the 3 programs, and you can look at page 92, there's a little recap on the results of the federal audit. So we had no findings. We tested 3 programs as part of our normal rotation this year: child nutrition, child and adult food care program, and the Head Start cluster. Also, no findings in the prior year that we need to report back on. So that is the financial audit. The bond audit, a whole different audit, really just focused on the bond funds associated with the various measures. When you look at that report, you're going to see 3 columns on the financial statement. So each measure has its own column in terms of activity. So similar to the financial audit, we're looking to see that the balances that are reported and the transactions, the totals make sense, that they're supported. So a very similar audit process. The second piece of that particular engagement is the performance audit. And the performance one is very specific to the expenditures and the compliance for expenditures. And are they supported, and do they align with what the voters had approved? And so each measure will look at the bond documents for each measure to ensure that they align with the voter requirements. We're also looking at salaries. We want to make sure that the salaries that are charged are only charged for appropriate people, individuals who, if not for those bond funds, they would not be performing the duties that they're performing. So that is a recap. I want to absolutely thank all the personnel who have helped us during the audit. This is a year-long process, it really is. It's a lot of work on the part of your team. There are so many components to the audit, from the sites to the education side, IT. This year we had a new audit standard. We had to spend a lot more time on the IT side. So we had our IT group working with your IT group to make sure that the controls and things were in place to help feel confident that the financial information is secure and accurate. So thank you to those folks. And of course on the facility side, spend a lot of time with your facilities folks as well. So thank you to everybody, Yumi, Susan, Alma, facilities, David, their team, Sarah Slater, Margaret. So just lots of people that are part of this process, and we appreciate their responsiveness and help throughout. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Do we have, yes, Dr. Benitez?
Thank you, Gemma. So I'll start off by saying good to know that our district once again received the highest level opinion here. And my question is sort of a high level question. Obviously, this is a extremely detailed, exhaustive process. You're not able to look at every single thing, but I think I'll say this. Our budget and our finances are extremely important, critically important to the business of the district. Having said that, context of budget and finances is also extremely important. So my first question is, given the context of a challenging budget climate at the state level, and the potential for future deficit, potential future deficit spending, could you talk about the report in terms of that context and the importance of what you're looking at, how we're doing things, what we're doing, and then the possible findings? Then in this case, like you said, there's just 3 findings. So that's the first question. And then I have a question around, we got 2 reports, right? The bond report and then the district-wide report. So I have a follow-up with that.
Okay. All right. So in terms of future, so part of the audit is not really looking into the future. As an auditor, we don't audit budgets. But it's real important that an organization have good internal control. And so looking at the report and seeing that there aren't findings associated with internal control over financial statements is really important. You want to make sure that as you work through whatever the financial picture is, that you can rely on the information that you're looking at, and know that your district has good policies and procedures in place for accuracy, and making sure that there's accuracy, transparency, that things make sense. So that's really, I think, what the opinion can give you, and what those letters give you is that kind of that comfort in terms of, okay, I don't have any material weaknesses. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Now, what may come with the budget, and the budget changes, that's a different story, but you can feel confident in terms of how the district is processing information and approaching information. But I will say also, when we do get into these kind of budget cut years and we're looking at that informs part of our risk assessment, because we do have to think about, is there incentive to misstate? Is there a reason why a district might overstate their revenue or understate their payables in the current year to meet their percentage requirement? Or could they possibly be coding things inappropriately because of trying to meet, say like their teacher salary ratio, something like that. So we always have to think about risk and control, and then kind of move forward with our audit from that perspective.
Thank you, Gemma. And the second question is in relation to the different reports, right? So, and I'll use our bond, the report you gave us on our bond. Some of these measures go back 16 years, right? Last one, 2022, the one before that, 2016, and then I think it was 2008, Measure K. So oftentimes our community members, our voters, right, our constituents wonder about, what happened to Project X, Y, Z? How are we spending? Are we spending it on the things that we're supposed to be spending the voters' decision on? And we're talking about large projects, large sums of money. And so sometimes we'll get like a consent calendar with hundreds of contracts in relation to bonds. So I'm wondering if you could talk, you touched on, if you could talk a little bit more, again, high level, on any differences between approach and process with the bonds audit versus the district-wide audit.
Sure, of course. The financial audit, not really, because our standards are the same regardless of, are you doing a fund or are you doing a complete organization. So that's going to be the same approach. For the performance audit, there are specific standards for performance audit. And in particular, you're looking to see, well, what is the objective? And in this case, Education Code, Government Code says the objective is to ensure that expenditures are appropriately charged to whichever measure it is. So really the focus is looking at the type of expenditure and is it appropriate? Now, we're not looking to see how are you doing in terms of efficiency on a project or which projects you decide to prioritize. That is management's decision. But we're looking to make sure that, for instance, if bond measure didn't allow for technology, there's nothing in there that said, okay, technology is okay, that we're not seeing technology in there. Or if there's something that we find that just generally most bond measures are pretty broad. They allow for a lot, as long as it's construction related, modernization, new construction, whatever it might be. They're usually pretty broad. But we are looking to make sure that when we look at that detailed list of what did the voters vote for, can we connect it? Is there a connection, or can we not connect the dots? And sometimes on occasion we've come to situations like that, and then we've asked the district, not necessarily your district, but other districts, to get legal counsel involved and to give an official opinion if they believe it's appropriate or not, and then either we have a finding or not. I had one recently a couple years ago where they had a grant, and so the expenses were really intended for a different grant. They landed in the bond, and we were like, oh, this doesn't sound right. And so yes, it was an error on their part, and they had to move it the next year and reimburse the bond. But that's really the difference between the two. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I just have a question. I think somewhere there I read that the finding regarding the deficiencies of the independent study agreement resulted in foregone revenue of $2.15 million. Is that correct?
It's an estimate. That will be ultimately calculated as those numbers work through the LCFF calculation. There's nothing impacting current year because your LCF is based on, the higher number of, which year is the highest ADA, and then there's the 3-year average component now. So depending on where your ADA is tracking, it may or may not have any impact, or it may have small impact. But the state requires us to do a calculation of, okay, just straight line, what's your average per ADA for each grade level, and this is what the hit would be if it was straight calculated like that. So, and again, independent study is it's a big. It's a difficult, it's a challenging program for many districts, and there are a lot of rules, and they keep changing in terms of synchronous, not how many days before you have to have a signed agreement, all of those types of things. So it's just important that you're continuing to monitor the changes, look at your agreements every year before you start the year to ensure that they are currently in compliance, and also your board policy, because one of the compliance areas we look at is, does your board policy have all of the requirements that are in Ed Code? So every year, taking a fresh look at it before you start the year, I think, is really important.
And just a reminder, that is one of the policies that's coming down the pipeline, the independent study policy. Just a quick follow-up. I'm sorry, Ms. Lopez. Quick follow-up on that. So in this case, this example, we would see, presumably we would see in next year's audit what corrective action was taken for this year's findings?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So in the case when you have a state, a compliance finding where maybe you're missing something from an agreement, because of the timing of the audit, you've already started the year, it's possible the finding might recur again in the subsequent year, just because our sample will span the whole year, and so you may not have had the opportunity yet to correct. So don't be surprised if sometimes that happens, but we do go back and look and then report regardless of the type of finding every year.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you. I can't help but notice that the audit is not just looking at if we're doing everything correctly and if we're reporting our the financial side of the house correctly, but also in ways that we can be helped by maximizing and leveraging the certain things like attendance or independent study, that type of thing. So it's very helpful for us going forward. So you're looking at what we've already done, but you're also helping us to go forward. So we appreciate how comprehensive this is, and just to hear things like 21 different sites were surveyed, or was it an in-person interaction?
It's we do go on site to many of the sites. It depends. We can do a lot of our work remotely these days, and during the COVID years we had to. So it's a combination of on site and remote. And then in terms of the attendance, it's on a rotational basis. So every year the sites that we visit are going to be different sites. The things that don't change are independent study. We always have to visit independent study, and I can't remember how many independent study sites you have, plus short term. But and same with continuation. So if there's just one continuation, we're always going to be testing that one continuation. And of course, if you've got a finding for a particular site, like Milliken, we're going to want to look at that again to make sure that they've corrected the error with that all-day absence code next year.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the effort. I want to thank staff, everybody who makes sure that everything is in order. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening, everybody.
Next on the agenda, we have item 16.2, the Williams Uniform Complaint Procedures. This is an information item only, and there were no complaints filed for the second quarter. So there's nothing for us to look at really on that one. Item 16.3, approval of initial bargaining proposals from the Long Beach Unified School District, the Teachers Association of Long Beach, TALB, K-12, and CDC Head Start. So I believe we need a motion on that one.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just I have a question. I know I asked this question at the last meeting, but just if you can elaborate a little bit more on Article 12 on negotiations, and that's using data to evaluate as a criteria for evaluation.
Because we haven't entered into the full negotiation process, which won't start until the end of this month, I wouldn't be able to provide feedback, but we will be providing the board feedback after each of our sessions. So as those things transpire, you'll get more feedback on that.
Thank you.
So Steve, maybe if you could remind us of process moving forward and where we're at right now?
So this is the second part of the sunshining process. So the initial part is to allow public viewing as well as the board time to review not only the proposals that we're presenting for approval, but also so people can look at and accept what's being presented by our labor partner TALB. This process is just basically giving us the approval to move forward with our initial proposals, and then bargaining will begin at the end of this month. We have our first session scheduled for the 29th, and we have subsequent sessions scheduled for February. And so it'll be an ongoing process, and again, we'll be able to provide reports as we move forward.
I see Jerry here in the audience, and then it will be a similar but different process with CSEA and in terms of the process itself?
The process itself will be identical for CSEA. You're going to see different proposals because we're talking about the impacts on classified employees versus certificated.
Then I will have our board secretary take a roll call vote.
Member Lopez?
Aye.
Member Otto?
Aye.
President Craighead?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
And student member Arroyo preferential vote?
Aye.
That passes 5-0.
Thank you. And next we have item 16.4, acceptance of the initial bargaining proposals from the Teachers Association of Long Beach, TALB, K-12, and CDC Head Start. So we need a
Move to
motion on this
approve.
one. Yeah.
Second.
No.
Discussion, we have questions on the second part? No? Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Rockenbach?
Really, for this, it's just acknowledging that we've received them. We don't have the approval power to determine what their proposals are, but it's just acknowledging that we've received TALP's initial proposals.
Thank you. Then I'll ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote.
Member Lopez.
Aye.
Member Otto.
Aye.
President Craighead.
Aye.
Member Benitez.
They have been received. Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
And Student Member Arroyo, preferential vote.
Aye.
That passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have item 16.5, approval of memorandum of understanding with Teachers Association of Long Beach, TALP. So, we need a second. We need a second.
Apologies, Madam Chair. What was the motion?
Well, the motion is to approve the MOU with TALP.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that item? I'll ask our board secretary to take a roll call vote.
Member Lopez.
Aye.
Member Otto.
Aye.
President Craighead.
Aye.
Member Benitez.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Student Member Arroyo, preferential vote.
Aye.
That passes 5-0.
Thank you. And we are now at report of board members, so we will start with Alana.
Thank you. I just wanted to give kind of a little reminder to the parents and students of our district who might be watching that high school choice application opens sometime next month. So this means that site nights at the high schools have begun. So for those who don't know what they are, it's a night that at the different high schools in our district where students can go on the campus and not only get a feel for the campus, the climate, and the student body, but also get information on the programs that the school offers, as well as the classes and the clubs, and a lot of really helpful information. And this is so important to our students who are choosing which high school they want to go to, because it helps them make their decision and be more informed and choose a path that would be best for them and what they want and what their interests are. This is I didn't have site nights when I was choosing high school, so I know how important they are, because I've been able to go to a couple in my high school careers and see how the students find their interests and really get a feel for the high schools that they're looking into. So if you can, please go in attendance to not only the schools that you are interested in, but also those that you hadn't thought of, because there's a lot of great opportunities all throughout the district, and you might just find some place that kind of just fits right where you belong that you didn't know before.
Thank you, Alana. That's why it's so important to have the student voice and have you represent students here, because you are a product of a time when we didn't have the site nights and you didn't have that benefit. And so now you're letting people know that is important. It's really helpful. And I like how you added to find out where you fit in. That's a big part of it. Mr. Miller.
Yes, so I had a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight. First, I wanted to give a special shout out to the teachers over at Washington, or at Burnett now. I got a great opportunity a couple of weeks ago to meet with them to hear a little bit about the move. So they're the campus that was technically transplanted from their campus to another location. So they're over at the Burnett campus, and Butler, I keep saying Burnett, my apologies, Butler campus. And that effort took a lot of work. You know, it took some upgrades to the campus. It took a lot of moving. If anybody who's ever had any construction done at their house or had to move from one place to another location, you understand the discomfort, right? That's the term that I use with David all the time, discomfort that comes with construction and moving. And so in spite of everything that comes with that, they've still been doing a lot of great work. Now, there's still some things, some quirks, some changes that need to occur, and we talked a little bit about those items. It was great to talk with Dr. Williams about some of those changes that the teachers would like to see. But I think the reason why I'm sharing this is because of the great community and I would say open lines of communication that they have. You know, I think that it's important within our district that we understand that our district isn't perfect, but to have respect and open lines of communication with one another are a very, very important tool to success. And so I just wanted to give that special shout out to the teachers and team at Washington for asking me to come on campus and were willing to share with me some of the great things that they have going on and some of their concerns as well, and their principal being open to listening to those things, because I think that is the professional courtesy and the tools for a successful campus. And so I just want to give a big kudos to them just for all of the great work that they're doing over there with our students, because they've been doing a lot of great work. Next, I wanted to give a special shout out to, we had a couple of performers at yesterday's State of the City, which was a very, very big event for our city, where our mayor shares some of his visions for 2025 and some of the great work that he has going on. And he incorporated a couple of our students from Renaissance and Poly as some of the entertainment. And so I just wanted to give a special shout out to them, and also wanted to thank our mayor for his great work in not only supporting our school district, but also the work that he has done in regards to supporting the families that have been affected by the fires. Just a few days ago, he worked with a number of us in leadership in regards to starting a fund to support those families. And in 48 hours, we've been able to raise, as a city, a little bit shorter than $500,000. And so that's just another great sign of the power of Long Beach and our care and love for people. And so it's just been very, very impressive to watch from afar, but still a little disappointing at the reason for the fundraiser, right? And so all things considered, I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledged the great work of all of the city of Long Beach in their sharing of the post, the donations that were given, the work that's been done, and also the participation in the mayor's State of the City. It's an important opportunity for residents to learn about everything that's going on. And obviously there's a direct relationship to the school district. Last but definitely not least, it is my dad's favorite time of the year, MLK Day or MLK Parade. I've shared a couple of times that my dad, I'm going to tease a little bit because I was with him a couple of times already this month. You all saw him just a few weeks ago, but he loves to fly in for this darn parade, man. He comes all the way from Dallas just to participate in the MLK Parade. With that said, the MLK Parade, which is really, really important to a large part of my district, we're talking about Central Long Beach. It has been going on for 50 plus years, and I can honestly say I've been participating in this thing for as long as I can remember. As a kid who went to creative arts to helping my dad build the stage, I think it's one of those events that if you grew up in that Poly neighborhood, in that Central Long Beach neighborhood, it is a staple for that community. And so I am looking forward to participating, and I would hope that the community, and we have millions of viewers, right? Millions of viewers. The millions that are watching, go ahead and Google MLK Parade 2025 and look at the times and dates to participate. And as I would love for as many people as possible to come out, because I think it's a joyous opportunity to fellowship with your neighbors, but also the reason why we're there, right? As we're talking about young man. He was a young man who fought for the civil rights of folks that look like me. And I've obviously benefited from a lot of the work that my predecessors did, and I'm very, very appreciative of his commitment. And so this is just another opportunity to celebrate his life, but also celebrate the life of many of the folks who have been a part of the civil rights movement, and to create environments where you can have a diverse board like the one we have now, a diverse administrative team, and a diverse district like we have now. So all things considered, I want to invite everyone out to the MLK Parade. That's this Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. I will not be riding a scooter down the middle of Alamedos this year, but should be a good time. That'll be the end of my report.
Thank you. Dr. Benitez.
Yeah, I'll just share a few thoughts, President Craighead. So in reference to a few of the things that were shared earlier about our student outcomes focused governance, some of the information Dr. Baker shared in terms of some work that's going on behind the scenes. I have noticed, and I have felt, and you raised it today, Dr. Baker, that our meetings have been light in terms of content. And that's fine. Short meetings are not inherently a bad thing. So I just want to encourage Dr. Baker, President Craighead, as we're developing our agendas. I just real quickly, Dr. Baker, after you mentioned, we got heavy things coming. I mean, it's hard because we have a monitoring calendar with board goals, and it seems like we're heavy really those days, whether in board workshop or goals. Just want to encourage us as we're developing agendas. There are other things. It doesn't just have to be on those presentations that we get board goals. We have Long Beach Promise stuff that I've brought up. We had the CAC make their recommendations, and we could be reporting back on progress toward those. Ethnic studies. It's been a while since we've heard about the work that we're doing in ethnic studies. A lot of stuff going on with our excellence and equity work. And although right now it may not be directly tied into student outcomes, I think there's an opportunity in between those longer, more clearly connected student outcomes presentations to think of our agendas in a way where, again, nothing wrong with short meetings, that we can address some of these programs, issues, initiatives, projects. So just encouraging to my colleague here, President Craighead, Dr. Baker, I'd rather spread out the work than have light meetings, and then in February, March, feel like putting on a lot of work at these, and then having longer meetings, and then May and June comes around, and then we're back at budget and LCFF stuff again. So again, in the spirit of making the most of our meetings, I think there's a lot of stuff that we could be covering in these meetings. We had some folks show up in December around revisiting our excellence and equity policy, also noting that our meetings have been light. So that's my report for today.
I will remind you that you had 4 meetings in December, so while a couple of them were light, you also had additional meetings, but point well taken, something that Mrs. Craighead and I can talk about.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
Just a couple of quick things. I was privileged earlier last week to go to Stanford Middle School, where they were having a celebration. And the celebration that they were having was led by their principal, Dow Lawson, and it was called Hot Cocoa with the Administration. And what they did was they celebrated the approximately 650 students who had reached their typical growth goals as measured by the iReady test. And I can't describe for you the enthusiasm of the students who were invited to participate in that event, and the fights that went on over the marshmallows. That was great. In addition, there were about 300 students who had reached their stretch goals, and they got lunch passes for 10 days to be at the front of the line. And if you've ever seen people motivated to celebrate what it was that they had, that was great. The second thing that I wanted to mention was that reiterate the importance of the Martin Luther King parade here in Long Beach every year, and especially this year right now. I've got not only the same long history that Eric has, but at one point in my long life. I worked for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference right after Martin Luther King was assassinated, went back to Washington, D.C., and it was a seminal part of my education to do that work. And as a result of that, all things Martin Luther King have been very, very important to me. And it's so refreshing to see the city on Martin Luther King Day, and to see the school district's participation in that, because it's an important time to celebrate that. It's especially this year important because this has been such a horrible 10 days or so since the fires and all the things that you couldn't turn. It was hard to turn off the TVs, but eventually you had to, because it showed so much devastation. You didn't know what you could do. People are trying to do things, but it's a picture of our democracy that we're finding ways to move forward and to say, this is what we're going to do. This is very important to us, and I think I'm personally just beginning to feel a sense of maybe some normalcy in the future. I don't know what that means. I don't know how the rebuilding will go. I don't know how these things will be paid for. I don't know. I mean, I see the devastation that it's happened. I had, last weekend I was at 3 memorial services having nothing to do with the fires, but it's just that for some reason that's what's happening now. And so we have conversations at our house and at my workplace where we talk about what's going on and what needs to be done. And I think those conversations are going on here too, from what I hear from people that I talk to. So it has been a horrible short period of time. It's getting better, I hope. I think that the Martin Luther King Parade that I will certainly be participating in, as I do every year, will be a way for people to come together and for the school district to show its support as well. So that's my report.
Thank you. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, so I'd like to take a moment to directly address the comments that were made at last board's meeting concerning my perceived lack of support for Vision 2035 and the equity policy. I'd like to clarify that I was not a member of the school board when this elected body voted on the equity policy. In terms of Vision 2035, I've already shared my reasons for voting against the vision. I casted a vote that reflects my concerns regarding the lack of community feedback incorporated into the document the weeks leading up to voting for the vision. While I understood that it was not possible to include everyone's voice, I believe that there were key themes from the community, such as the need for more counselors, among others, that should have been included in the final version of Vision 2035. I also want to clarify that I voted in favor of the board's goals and guardrails that were adopted by the district and made several attempts to include other subgroups, including English learners, Pacific Islanders, Latinos, foster youth, students with disabilities, and homeless youth, just to name a few. I have deep respect for those who championed and contributed to Vision 2035. Like them, I believe we must ensure that underserved and minoritized students, like our Black African American students, are provided with the resources necessary for academic success. At the same time, I believe that addressing the needs of other student subgroups does not diminish our commitment to our Black African American students. It does not have to be an either-or situation. It can be both and. I want to conclude by saying that it is dangerous to subscribe to narratives that lead to scarcity mindset and play to long-standing practices of divide and conquer. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wisely said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." As we celebrate the birthday of this iconic civil rights leader next week, let us honor his legacy by staying true to this principle and remaining united in our commitment to achieving equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, last week I traveled uptown and spent some time at the Math Collaborative, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Doris Robinson for all the work that she does, and it was such a pleasure to meet the college aides. She has former students working, well, former students, I should say, at Jordan. Jordan students, they've graduated, they've gone on. Let's see, I met one from Long Beach City College, another one from Cal State Long Beach, and they come back and they are mentoring her current students. And they offer support in math, and it's not just helping with homework, that type of thing, which they do, but they also attend their math classes with them so that they're getting the information at the same time and they know exactly how to help them. And it's just wonderful. These young men are doing great things. I spoke with one young man who, when he was at Jordan, when he started out at Jordan, he didn't really expect to graduate from high school, and now he's attending Cal State Long Beach in an engineering program. That's the kind of thing that's happening at Jordan. That's the kind of thing that's happening with this Math Collaborative. So it's truly transformative. I want to thank everybody involved, especially Ms. Doris Robinson and the mentors and the students who are working so hard to do well. I was also going to talk about the state of the city last night. Mr. Miller, you covered that very nicely. You may have, did you mention the NJRTC presenting the colors? NJRTC from Lakewood presenting the colors. And then the rock band from Poly was called Sugar Skull, I think. So great and so well received. It was such a treat to see our students featured in that way. And I'm glad that everybody is mentioning the MLK parade this Saturday. Even in the rain, the neighborhood comes out to support and celebrate. So I'm looking forward to Saturday as well. So now we're at the report of our superintendent.
Great, thank you. I'd like to start my report tonight by introducing a new member of the Long Beach Unified team in Margaret Lamb. So if you'll come to the podium, Margaret, just to put a name and a face. Margaret Lamb comes to us from El Monte City School District. She was the director of fiscal services there, and was not going to say it, but I'll say it. She's the new Renee Arcus because Renee has a long legacy of good work in our district, and the board knows the work that Renee did. So Margaret is here to serve as our executive director of fiscal services. She has literally hit the ground running and is working just to create systems and get to know her team and to be ready for this coming budget season. So welcome to Long Beach Unified and to our Board of Education.
Yes, happy to be here, and good evening to everybody. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret, for staying. All right, in addition to introducing Margaret, just a few things that I'd like to share. So building on some things that were said around Washington Middle School teachers, we will break ground on the Washington Middle School Transformation Project this month. So super excited to see shovels in the ground, so to speak. We have begun the kindergarten festivals this year, and for folks who were not able to attend at Barton in person, there's a virtual kindergarten festival that's on our YouTube channel that the families can look at to have questions answered and to see what kindergarten is all about. And we have one more in person on March 8th. So this we'll announce this a couple of times, but March 8th at Alvarado Elementary School from 9 to 12, there is a final kindergarten festival that also includes early childhood and resources around pre-K and for students with disabilities. So wonderful opportunity for families with young children to be out in our school. I would like to just thank you, Mrs. Craighead, for opening and your statements about victims of the fires in Altadena and in our local Pacific Palisades. It has been incredible to see the compassion and empathy of our students. In addition to what was said about Long Beach giving to LA County to the tune of $500,000 in last night's State of the City, our students have shown up in the way that we always see them do. Our littles at elementary schools collecting things that are personal hygiene, to food drives and other ways that they can contribute. And so many of the social media channels from our schools feature the ways that students are showing up as compassionate and empathetic and doing what they can. Alana shared about high school choice nights, so that schedule is available under H, High School Choice, on our district website. Thank you for featuring them. It is a wonderful night to see students talking to students about what is available in their schools and what is special about their schools. And then we have concerts for young people coming up. I know Mrs. Craighead will be attending at the end of January, but a special shout out to Linda Gunn, who is now a funder of Concerts for Young People, supporting our students and the 4th and 5th graders, all getting to experience a wonderful symphony experience and learning about not only what it means to go to a symphony, but what's behind the scenes, and have a wonderful experience in the Terrace Theater. And lastly, this month, we will also have our very first district recognition and celebration ceremony. At the direction of the board, we talked about how to honor and acknowledge employees and not always having time in a standard board meeting to do so. And so later this month, we will have 2 parts. We will have an open house of doctoral candidates from a number of programs, USC being one of them. Our cohort that went through the SDSU program, so there will be an hour of open house where you can hear about all the doctoral research that was done by teachers and administrators, an opportunity to recognize them. And then retirees and other employees who have received some kind of recognition will be honored in a ceremony. So look forward to seeing all of you there and invited guests that will come with those employees. So really excited about that. And that is my report for tonight. Thank you.
Wear your school colors when we go to that USC celebration.
I hear you calling in for blue and gold, right? Okay, you can wear district colors. How's that? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes the business of our meeting tonight, but before we adjourn, 2 things. One, the next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, February 5th. And then I believe Mr. Miller would like to adjourn our meeting for someone special.
Yes, so I'd like to adjourn today's meeting in honor of Police Chief Wayne Byerly of Signal Hill, who unfortunately passed away last month. I had the opportunity to meet him when he first became the chief not too long ago, actually, at the 20th year remembrance of the passing of Ron Settles. If anyone knows the story of Ron Settles, it's an uncomfortable one to say the least, as it was a young man who passed away in Signal Hill at the hands of the police. And you can imagine how difficult of a situation that it is to speak on behalf of the police at this event. But let me tell you, for this to be one of Wayne's first speaking engagements after being appointed the police chief, I couldn't have been more impressed with the way that he took accountability, empathy for what had occurred for the family, and really the vision of integrity he had for the Signal Hill Police Department. And so to that, he and I built a relationship. I was disappointed, a little bit taken aback, but to hear about his passing. But all things considered, he left a great legacy for the city of Signal Hill, and especially their police department, and he'll be greatly missed. And so I'd like to honor his life by adjourning today's meeting. Just recognizing all the great work that he did for those residents in the city of Signal Hill, but also the legacy he's leaving for his family.
Thank you. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.